Oh no, there's another squad attacking.
Welcome to The Third Party, an Apex Legends podcast hosted by myself, Shay, and joined as always by my co-host, Henry. Henry, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. I mean, today we're going to be talking about a topic that we've been asked about a lot.
We've been floating around this idea a lot too.
Yeah, so I'm excited to finally sink our teeth into it and share some thoughts and to really break down this idea.
Definitely.
Yeah, so essentially to go through kind of the current state of the legend classes. First, we have the first side of the binary coin. We're talking offensive and defensive. The offensive legends are really the grab bag here. We got Wraith, Bangalore, Mirage, Octane, Revenant, Horizon, and Fuse. This is kind of the biggest one, and I think we're going to break this one down probably the most. We've talked about this before. If you go on the other side, you got the defensive legend, and that's Gibraltar, Caustic, Watson, and Rampart. This one's pretty cut and dry. I think there is kind of the outlier of being Gibraltar.
Totally.
And that he doesn't build anything, doesn't have any like deployable permanent item that can hold down a building or something like that. And then we have kind of going outside of this whole like you're either attack or you're defense. And you have the support class, and that's Lifeline and Loba. And these legends are quite different.
Yes, they do their supporting in a quite different style.
Quite different. We'll talk about them more for sure. And then we have the Recon class, maybe our favorite class. I don't know if we pick favorites, but
We
Pathfinder, Crypto, and Bloodhound. And this class is probably the most prominent in the class system because they all share the same passive ability. And that's the Survey Beacon.
It's crazy. Like, we will talk a bit about this as well, just having a passive for the class. Before we do that, though, I just kind of want to throw in the concept of like, it is so weird that these legends have bounced around in between classes before. Because we're talking about the class system today, and it's weird for us to look at the history of Apex and say, how come this is really important when we've had legends switch between offensive, recon, defense, offense? Like, that's kind of weird from a game design standpoint to think about, that these legends weren't actually created with these classes particularly in mind, maybe.
The majority of the new legends have been tossed into this offensive class.
Yeah.
We recently have had Rampart as kind of a fourth to the defensive class, but, Horizon, Fuse, Revenant, all in the offensive.
It's crazy though. Horizon, Fuse, Revenant, so
pretty
different.
Dang different, yeah. Very, very different. But the fact that they're kind of all thrown into this raises the question, like, are they trying to round out the classes? Are they trying to kind of move away from that importance? Like, we only have 2 support legends. Is the next legend going to be support?
That's
it maybe should be.
Totally what I was going to say.
So that's kind of the big question. Like, are we developing legends for classes, or are we trying to fit existing legends into made up classes?
Because those are 2 different levels of importance drastically for the game design itself.
Very much so. Now let's dive into the new kind of systems or structure for balancing the legends. The first new class is the movement class. And I think this one's not controversial at all. I think that it very much makes sense and it really solves a lot of problems. But the movement legends, Pathfinder, Octane, Wraith, and Horizon. Essentially, these are all legends that can move the rest of their team. And this class is a great example of, okay, we're choosing our team composition. We want one of these if we care about, making fast rotations under pressure and things like that. So movement, I think, is a really strict, clear, cut and dry framework where essentially you don't want to double up on that. Like, you don't necessarily need to have Octane and Path or Octane and Horizon. Like, that's a good class system. If you're looking at it through that lens of, we want to have a way to have buckets for our team composition. So we're, having diversity. Next class is kind of going to be an adaptation on the defensive class currently, and that's the area denial. And so that'll be Watson, Caustic, and Rampart.
Yeah, I think this one's pretty clear cut in a good sense. And I think there's like kind of like the movement. There's an argument to say, yeah, let's grab this bucket and let's fill up and have one of these legends in our team comp. And I think when you look at the defensive legends, which are these legends plus Gibraltar, you get into the same difficulty as what we're talking about with the offensive characters of like, well, if I'm choosing one offensive and one defensive, my play style is going to change a lot different from if I choose one movement and one area denial legend.
This movement class and area denial are pretty much a more specified version of the offensive and defensive.
Yeah.
It's really trimming the fat down. It is what it is. They do exactly as, they're titled. These are really clear classes, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now it gets kind of fun and exciting. Essentially, the next class would be combat support. You have Bangalore, Gibraltar, then Lifeline and Loba, all in one class. And Lifeline and Gibraltar are traditionally these healers. They're kind of these combat medics of sorts. And Gibraltar kind of bled into that space over the last year or so. But Lifeline, Gibraltar, and Bangalore are really good at maybe not being the spear in an offense, but being really strong as that second in and being able to support combat. When we get to Loba, it's a little bit of a stretch.
Well, she's just such an outlier in general from an abilities perspective from everyone else in the game. Like Loba is like combat support. She's just pre-combat support.
Pretty much. It's very hard to like appropriately give her the credit she deserves because essentially she's saying that by the time you roll into your first fight, she's able to get everyone on the team 4 extra like items and max ammo. How valuable is that? Final class in this kind of framework is the weirdest title, but it really works when you actually hear who's in it. The engagement and breach class. Kind of an emphasis on the breach. We have Revenant, who is quite good at breaching with the Death Totem and the Silence.
Yeah, definitely don't forget those.
But then we have Mirage, who is, I look at Mirage's ultimate, I believe it's called Life of the Party. You send him in, he's a decoy grenade. Yeah. Like he just goes straight into the fight, triggers that ultimate, creates chaos, and he can do it once or twice per fight. Great engagement legend, should be spearheading all combat, can fend off the third party just by creating chaos. Mirage really, I think, fits into this engagement play style. Next, we have Fuse, which I think is really cut and dry breach.
Yeah.
Really awesome at destroying doors with the tactical. And then the range on the ultimate really make it so that, Fuse is he's breaking up whatever defensive situation you have and going to be triggering engagement. If you look at any of the legends, Fuse, based on our mastering the legends and my experience playing him, this whole kit's offense. Offense only. There is no negotiating that. There is really no, I personally, I'll take the stand that I don't really think you can use Fuse's ultimate mother load to area denial. I think it's a little too slow. I think it's a little too long range. It's very difficult to use it to draw a line in the sand. It can be done, but I don't really think that's the intent of his kit.
And it's not intuitive.
It's not. So he's really offense, breach. And then you have Crypto, who of course is a great breach because he's the only legend in the game that is pretty much the most direct counter to other legends.
Yeah.
And he's just able to destroy any defensive equipment that a legend puts out. And that's a big breach on top of the fact that he can do 50 damage with the MP as well.
Yeah.
Pretty much breach. And then Bloodhound, really similar to Mirage in that you could spearhead a fight in that ultimate, having great callouts, but breaching really fits in well with Bloodhound because if someone's in a building, you can scan and really be able to effectively clear that room by knowing where they are.
Guys, thank you so much for listening. Subscribe on Apple Pods. Give us a follow on Spotify. Leave a 5-star review with your question. We'll answer on our next episode. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Third Party Pod. Follow us on Twitch and stop by our weekly streams. Links in the description below. And also check out the Discord via the link in the description. So thank you so much for listening to the Third Party Podcast. Peace.
Hey now, another squad coming in. Boom, whole squad down.
Hey, brother, not today. Maybe tomorrow.